I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with Team Fortress 2. You know, that one game with the fat Russian eating a sandwich and strange mods. The last major update it received was all the way back in 2017. And ever since, people, including myself, have slowly run out of things to do in the game. Especially since most of the time you couldn't even play it due to hackers. But that got me wondering, how can I enjoy the charm of playing Team Fortress 2, without having to play it? Well, that's where today's subject comes in. Team Fortress Arcade is a TF2 fan game developed by Eric Ruth. Released on 2011 on ModDB, it takes the classes of Team Fortress 2 and places them into a 2D side-scroller beat-em-up game. It's pretty obvious from the art style and gameplay that Team Fortress Arcade aims to capture the charm of classic 90s arcade games, and honestly, it nails it. The game features 10 levels, each with their own gimmicks, environments, and boss fight at the end. As mentioned earlier, you can play as any of the classes from Team Fortress 2, and naturally, the first class is the Scout.
You're a fucking dirty man.
You can of course run, jump, and shoot. If you shoot at the exact moment you jump, you'll perform a melee attack. Each class brings its own distinct weapons and abilities to the table. For the Scout, his primary weapon is the scatter gun. True to form, it delivers a spread of 3 bullets in every blast, which shouldn't be much of a surprise considering the source material. If you shoot while you're in the air, you'll be firing with your pistol. It doesn't deal nearly as much damage as his shotgun, but it's there. Scout's main ability is his signature move, the double jump. As you progress through the levels, you'll continue to encounter newer enemies with different abilities. For the first level, the main enemies are the One Robot, Pyro, and Copter Drop. The One Robot is your standard enemy. He'll walk towards you or begin to shoot. The Pyro works the same, but he will also set you on fire. The Copter Drops are pretty unique, however. You can't hurt them in any way. They'll fly around and try to drop bombs on you like they're North Korea. After reaching the end of the stage, you'll have to battle a boss, and the first level's boss is the Red Scout. He'll run around the arena trying to hit you, and he'll stop once in a while to shoot. After defeating him, we move on to the next level, and our next class is...
Who's that Pokemon? It's
the Soldier. The Soldier moves rather slowly as he carries his rocket launcher. His ability is the rocket jump. His melee weapon is his shovel. In the second level of the game, your mission is to deliver a payload to a pile of boulders blocking your path. The stage also introduces a new enemy, a Drillbit. This enemy roams around and occasionally attempts to drill your feet. He's stupid easy to beat, which is pretty sad because I think he looks pretty cool. But whatever. Also, this would be a good time to mention that you can play with other players locally. However, every player shares the same keyboard, meaning playing the game with others may look something like this. The boss of this level is of course the Soldier. He'll rocket jump into the air, raining down a barrage of rockets as he ascends. After defeating him, we move on to the next stage, and our next class is... the Pyro. Pyro uses his flamethrower to deal burning damage onto enemies. His special ability is to deal afterburn damage, weirdly enough, which is pretty bad, not gonna lie. The damage they take from it is so low that it might as well be none, but whatever. The third stage of the game takes place on a moving elevator for some reason, and enemies will fly down from the sky in little parachutes, which I think is pretty cool. A new enemy included in the level is the Rollobo. He can shoot and curl up into a ball, making him immune from any damage. This makes him one of the most annoying enemies in the whole game, due to the simple fact that he can run you over while he is in a ball. As we continue to kill enemies, the Pyro will show up, and he'll run towards us and try to set us on fire. But he'll have to recharge after a few seconds. We move along onto the factory, and our next character is... the Demoman is probably one of the best characters in the whole game. He uses his grenade launcher to, well, launch grenades onto enemies, and when he's airborne, he'll shoot sticky bombs, which will detonate after you jump again, propelling you upwards if you were standing over them. If you play your cards right, you can complete a level completely in the air, which is pretty fun. The fourth stage of the game is very similar to the first level, and even down to the new enemy, which is just an armored version of the wand robot. The boss is the Demoman. He'll place a couple of sticky bombs on the ground and will charge you using the Islander. But this fight is pretty broken, like sometimes the Demoman will charge at me for less than a nanosecond. Or like the time I sticky jumped myself into a wall. But let's move on to the path, with our next class being the Heavy. Heavy is pretty slow as you'd probably expect, and he uses his machine gun to fire a ton of bullets. You can pretty much shoot endlessly as long as you hold down the fire key, since the game doesn't have any bullet reload mechanics. In this level, we have to capture every single control point before battling the Heavy. The Heavy will fire his minigun at you before eating a sandwich in order to regain his health. You have a little bit of room to deal damage after he's done eating before quickly switching back to shooting. And I'd like to mention how the melee mechanics in this game are completely busted. You basically have invincibility whenever you're trying to hit someone, which makes this fight a snooze fest for the most part. We also have a couple of new enemies in here, like the Freezer bot. He's the exact opposite of the Pytron, he freezes you. And there's also the Snowy Tron. He cannot move nor be destroyed, he can only throw snowballs at you. We move on to the race, with our next class being the Engineer. He is pretty bad, he can build sentries and upgrade them, which is pretty cool, but it's useless because the sentries don't last very long before disappearing, let alone destroy anything more than a single target. And his boss fight isn't any better. He'll walk around and use the Wrangler to activate some mini sentries placed on the ground, which don't even hit you half the time. The sixth stage is pretty much the same as the second, but there are now 2 carts. Every few seconds a couple of push bots will spawn and push the cart. They don't do anything besides that.
What is my purpose?
You push a cart.
I'm the main character when we playing Fortnite.
With that being said, we move on to the train with the medic, and he's basically the worst class in the game. His main attack can only heal himself or other players, and his ability is to control his jump height. For some reason, the boss here is a robot that shoots lasers, but he's not the real threat. The actual boss is the medic, who appears after you damage the robot enough. The medic will try to heal the robot, giving you a chance to attack. It's a fun change of pace, but next, we'll head to the desert with the sniper. I really like the sniper. You can shoot with your sniper rifle, but you can hold down the attack button in order to charge a shot to deal a lot more damage. The new enemies in this level are archbots, which are unkillable and only show up for a moment to shoot arrows at you. The sniper boss fight I think was handled pretty well. He's on top of this platform, and he'll shoot you with either his SMG or sniper rifle. You have to destroy all of pillars in order to beat him. Pretty good level. Let's move on to the dark with the spy. You can turn invisible, making any enemy targeting you move on with their day. There's also a new enemy, the Ninjatron. He can throw a shuriken and teleport behind you. The spy boss fight is pretty mid to be honest. He'll teleport around the arena trying to backstab you. It's not hard, but it's pretty boring. And finally, we've reached the final level, titled, The End. Upon entering, we are greeted with this.
Welcome, gentlemen, to Aperture Science. I'm Cave Johnson. I own the place.
We're fighting the CEO of Aperture Science itself, Cave Johnson.
You're here because I want to stick my dick in a robot.
He'll try to attack us using his hands, and enemies will start coming from both sides. You can't normally damage him, not until Saxton Hale shows up and delivers a punch that knocks his head into the ground, giving us a chance to attack him, and the cycle continues. He has a ton of health, but at the end it was meaningless, because we still destroyed him. And that was the final level. After the release of Team Fortress Arcade, the developer would announce on an interview that he would continue to update the game and promised a few upcoming features, like some new modes, difficulty challenges, a player versus player matchup and online co-op. And while the game did get a few patch updates, it never actually got any of the stuff I mentioned. The developer was actually acquired by a gaming company, making him unable to continue support for Team Fortress Arcade due to copyright concerns, ending up just like the game it was inspired by. Team Fortress Arcade is not perfect, it has its share of issues. Pretty much all of the enemies and bosses behave mostly the same, with only a couple slight variations. However, this isn't meant to discredit the developer. This was probably a passion project for him, making pretty much every single asset in the game by himself, and coding the whole thing using Game Maker 8. And I think that deserves recognition. Please, for the love of everything dear to you, like and subscribe.